Kia ora, good evening. Primary exports are set to reach $37.7 billion this year, a record level and $1.3 billion more than previously forecast. The Ministry for Primary Industries released a yearly publication providing a snapshot and forecast for major primary sectors over the next 4 years, which shows good increases for both dairy and forestry. Dairy now accounts for 46% of total primary industry export value, while demand for logs from China's driving growth in the forestry sector, and domestic demand for sawn timber is expected to increase as the housing market grows. Meat and wool exports have broken $8 billion in the year to June and are expected to increase by around 22% through to 2018. 15 Invercargill residents swore an oath or took an affirmation of allegiance to the Queen at a citizenship ceremony in the City Council chamber this morning. Mayor Tim Shapbolt put aside his usual welcome speech, taking the opportunity to instead speak of last week's regional survey that showed Southland ranked as one of the better places in the country to raise a family, find employment and buy into affordable housing.
Well, on this occasion I could make it a happy welcome because we certainly are excited by the fact that 91% of Southlanders feel happy with their lives. And of course there's obvious factors like the cost of housing, it's much more affordable here, and our low unemployment levels. But I think there's a lot more to it. I think we've had fantastic events, we've got tremendous facilities, an army of volunteers out there doing all sorts of work for charitable trusts, a low crime rate, and it's getting lower by the week. A lot of factors have added up to this.
I was looking at my notes actually from 15 years ago, from pretty much this month. We were talking about a busload of people leaving the city a week. House prices slipping by 5 to 10% per annum. A real turnaround in that 15 years.
Oh, it certainly is, and a 2.7% increase in our population after so much decline is a real boost. It helps keep the value of houses from dropping. It just makes people, I think, feel good about themselves and good about their province. And to me, it's one of the most important aspects of life, is that if you're happy, and if our citizens are happy, that's a great achievement.
Well, let's get personal. You raised a family in Auckland, you're raising one here in Invercargill. There's a few decades difference, but is there a discernible difference in location and people and happiness?
I think we do live a far less stressful life here, and because we've got those facilities like Queen's Park and Sandy Point and museums and art galleries, you can take children and many other facilities that are provided by the churches as well in the city. Swimming lessons at Splash Palace. It is a fantastic place to raise a family, and I think that makes people feel happy.
Let's not get too excited. The city was built with an infrastructure for 100,000 people. Do you think we could inch our way closer?
Well, we got white gold, and that certainly helped, and the smelters survived, and who knows what the future's going to be. I mean, global warming, I know it's a major problem, but for us down here, well, we could benefit from that. And the future is looking bright at the moment, and so long as people feel confident about the future, then that tends to play out, and I think we can all feel very happy and very confident about the future of Invercargill.
One New Zealand company is taking it into their own hands to educate those behind the wheel in a bid to reduce the number of accidents caused by overseas drivers. New Zealand-owned rental car company Juicy have launched a new driver safety educational initiative that includes a multilingual video and printed driving tips. The video is played to international drivers with a non-English licence ahead of collecting their vehicle via email or at branch.
Driving in New Zealand is like anywhere. You've got to have your current driver's licence and you've got to wear your seatbelt when you're driving.
Obviously, you're not allowed to drive while drunk, and the driver can't use their phone while driving.
New Zealand drives on the left side of the road. If you're from one of these countries, this means everything is going to be reversed for you. To help you out, some intersections have signs pointing to which side of the road you should be on. If you get confused and spot one of these, follow it.
A useful guide is that the driver should be closest to the centre line. If there is a passenger seat between you and the centre of a two-way street, pull over and reorient yourself.
The video covers New Zealand's unique driving conditions and rules.
This is the speed limit, road construction, no stopping, no parking, and this side means you can drive up to the national speed limit of 100 kilometres per hour.
Juicy owner Tim Alp says the initiatives will go some way to mitigate the risks of overseas driver confusion and give New Zealand drivers confidence steps are being made to educate Juicy customers.
This sign indicates an upcoming roundabout, which is a round intersection that works a bit like a flowing four-way stop. Since all traffic moves in a circle, you need to check to your right to determine when it is safe to proceed.
When turning left, indicate left and turn as you would at a normal intersection. If you're turning right, indicate right as you enter the roundabout clockwise, then indicate left as you prepare to exit. If you're going straight, only indicate when you're about to exit. In the case of a two-lane roundabout, both lanes can often go straight, but you'll need to be in the right lane if you're turning right and the left lane if you're turning left.
The initiatives have been implemented at Juicy's own cost and are over and above any legal requirement.
The future of the oldest collection of 19th century buildings in New Zealand remains unclear, with buildings and land still up for sale. The former Queen Victoria Hospital on Invercargill's D Street is owned by the Crown and managed by the Ministry of Health and has a Category 1 rating with the Historic Places Trust, and a conservation plan has been prepared. The property has a rateable value of $930,000 and a portion of the land could be subdivided for separate sale. However, the purchase price being sought by the Ministry is currently commercially sensitive, according to Ministry of Health Chief Advisor Michael McCarthy. Mr McCarthy says if a buyer is not found in the near future, it will be placed on the open market, but wouldn't commit to the future of the buildings if they remain unsold. Stay with us. Still to come on the bulletin, ACT leader Jamie White's in the city to rally support to his beleaguered party. Welcome back. ACT Party leader Dr Jamie White was in the city today to garner support from party faithful following a week that saw the party's sole MP, John Banks, found guilty of electoral fraud. Dr White wants the party to put past controversy behind it and get on with promoting its core values. Hunter Andrews asked him about the fundamentals of his beleaguered party and whether John Banks should have stepped down as soon as he was found guilty last Thursday.
Well, that was never going to happen because John wasn't expecting the verdict. He would have been surprised, and he's not. He wanted to give it some thought, and I don't think he wanted to look like he was reacting out of emotion. So I mean, he got the verdict on Thursday. He made the decision on Sunday. Strikes me as a pretty normal kind of time period to think it through.
Okay, what's the future for the party? Is this you'll be on a massive rebranding exercise, I guess? Well, not so much rebranding, but to make ACT look a bit more hospitable to those voters to return, and you did get large proportions of the votes, up to around 9% at one stage.
Actually, I shouldn't correct this, but the highest we ever got was 7.1. I think we had 9
MPs.
Yeah. So that's actually quite the point. So I'm not completely rebranding. What I see myself as doing more is taking us back to those days. In the early days of ACT, we were a party of ideas, and people knew about what those ideas were, bold kind of policy reform of a free market variety, you might say. And that's what we were known for. And then over time, there were a few scandals and stories, and we got known for all that. And I want to take the party back to being known for our ideas and stop the Woman's Weekly type scandal stuff. And I hope I'm the man to do that. And we can just keep talking about our ideas.
Let's talk about those ideas. One key one would be a flat tax. Is ACT still a flat tax party?
We are still a flat tax party, but we've got a little problem at the moment, which is that the tax code has become more progressive over the years. So we've got these very low rates done at the lower end, so we've got 14.5%. It would be impossible as of the 20th of September to have a flat tax which didn't involve lifting some people's income taxes. An ACT is not going to lift people's income taxes. So the policy we now have is to flatten the tax code. We could bring the top rate of tax down from 33% to 24%. So most people would be paying 17, some would pay 24, but so it's not perfectly flat, it's a lot flatter. Over the coming years, we would hope that we could move towards a flat tax. We think a flat tax of about 17.5% should be doable if we can constrain government spending growth over the coming years.
In 4 days it'll be 30 years since Robert Muldoon called that snap election that heralded neoliberalism policies. You reached 7% as you said before, in vote. Do you think that's about the total? Is that the ceiling?
If you look at parties like ACT around the world, where they have existed, and they really only get to exist in proportional representation systems, they tend to peak at about 10% support. It's been very, very rare for anyone to do better than 10%. And I think that what ACT could reasonably aim to be is what you might call the Greens of the right. The Greens are currently on about 10 to 12%. I think that that's probably the share of the population that agrees with us. So if we did as well as possible, that's about where we could stand. And we could be an enduring force in New Zealand politics, just like I expect the Greens to be.
Let's talk about southern electorates. You've got Don is actually, Nicholson is confirmed now as a candidate for Clutha Southland. He polled about 800 votes last time. He actually polled less for the party vote. That's not good getting the list message out, is it?
Yeah, that's not a good sign. In fact, it wasn't just here where that happened. If you look at, I think, our results across the country, our candidates got about as many votes as individuals, for the constituency vote, as they managed to raise for party votes in their electorate. So for some reason, the message about Party Vote Act, we only want your party vote, isn't quite getting across. We need to work on that. I think all the parties need to work on that. In Germany, where they've had this system now for 60 years, every election they still have to re-educate the population about how MMP works. MMP is a complicated electoral system. People, and only kind of political boffins really get it, and most people aren't political boffins.
David Cunliffe said that if he has any say in the next government, coattailing in off electorates will be gone. This could be the swan song for ACT if they are make up the majority of the next government.
Well, it's my goal in any event to get us up to over 5% at the next election. It's very unlikely we'll hit the 5% threshold at this election. So we will probably be reliant on winning Epsom and then getting, coattails MPs in. However, another thing to add is that if the coattails rule goes, if coattailing is eliminated, probably that change would be combined with lowering the threshold. So it would move from 5 down to maybe 4 or even 3%. If that were the case, then again we've got a very good chance of getting back in by getting over that now lower threshold. I hope we'll get over 5% in 2017. I'm very confident we'd get over 3 or 4%.
Will we see a candidate here in Invercargill?
I hope so. We haven't got one yet. There are, I'm having a few functions here. I've come down to meet, activists and members. I'm hoping that part of what my time here will be spent finding a candidate.
Sport is along next after the weather for you, which is right now. From the news team, good night.